Today we wanted to bring you guys all here to do a walking tour of West Broadway along with the engineer of the BLRT project from Met Council so that we could ask questions and actually see a real live view of what's supposed to be happening to our corridor. And so we're going to be able to ask questions and say, so what's happening here, what's happening with this building, and they should be able to answer those questions for us. I'll hand it on over to Nakongo, and he can take it over from there.
All right, thank you. We'll get going. I want to introduce Rob and Nick Landwehr. They will be guiding the tour. We're going to begin right out here. We're going to stop at the sidewalk here. We're going to show you a few things about the station here, James. And let's get going. We're going to walk the south side and then
Please ask questions. So,
to the north side.
I'll ask.
yeah. So I'm the director of engineering and design for the project, so I should know the answer to you. Rob is our engineer with our consulting staff. He should have a good handle on things too. And just, you know, we're at the very beginning stages of engineering right now. The plans you see, they're more of the planning phase, but we'll start diving in more depth where we start looking at everything underground, service connections to buildings. But this is a great time to get with the project, to ask the questions. You know, if you know of things that plans that you have along the corridor or with your businesses or properties, this is a good time to let us know. And this is a time where we can really work with you and make the most out of our plans as we're moving. You know, right now they're based on just our preliminary layout, offset of what we think we need to be. We're fairly conservative with them, you know, to make sure that we're, you know, maybe over-promise or under-promising, and try to deliver. So, all right, come on, everybody, come in so you can make sure you hear what I'm saying, and hopefully can answer some questions and take care of you know, concerns of our So everybody should have a plan sheet here. We are starting on page 1 right here. And on this plan sheet, there's a lot of information on here. Again, these are pretty conceptual, but the blue alignment that you see is the light rail. And what we're proposing from this point forward is center running at grade with light rail. So light rail would go in the roadway. It operates with the through lanes of traffic. So you can see right now there's two lanes of traffic in each direction. With light rail being in the middle, this will get reduced down to one lane of traffic in each direction. But at, you know, signalized intersections, we need to make sure that we have safe crossings that are signalized. So at a signalized intersection, we'll have left turn lanes in there to get folks across the track and through. So some of the other things that you're going to see on this map, and it really, you know, it probably gets pretty fine for some of the details, but the question is, there's permanent right-of-way taking. So those would be the red lines along here. You know, maybe we need a foot or 5 feet or 6 inches of right-of-way. That would be indicated on the red, with the red dashes on there. And then what's harder to see is the green lines. Those are temporary right-of-way that would likely be needed for the project. So, you know, we can tie into doorsteps, sidewalks, stairs, driveways, and things like that. You know, make sure the grading works. So they're based on conceptual plans right now. Our design team is starting to refine plans to, you know, try to, you know, hone in the project a little bit. You know, make sure that we squeeze it up and you know, make it economical. We're not the biggest footprint that we can make. We're the least impactful as possible. So.
I got a question. So this diagonal,
Yeah.
that the light rail is at James, right? It starts at James, and it goes up and kind of across all through this stuff,
Yeah.
right?
So
To
yeah.
Irving. That's where it goes,
Yeah.
it hikes over to get onto 21st. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
make sure I understand.
Yeah, so understanding here, light rail will be coming from Target Field Station. It's coming through and two serving. We have stations along the corridor that where the light rail is. The stations are there to serve those communities, serve destinations for it. So our recommended alignment from our staff that we put forward now is Target Field Station, coming off of Target Field Station, turning on 10th to Washington. We follow Washington up on the east side of 94, and we cross over 94 onto 21st. So we're looking at, up until this portion, 21st and West Broadway are a transportation corridor as we're looking at. So we're working together. There's right-of-way needs that we're looking at. There's parking needs. There's utilities. There's traffic access. And so on 21st, that will become a transit way with this plan, meaning vehicle traffic would come off of it, light rail, bikes, peds on there, make it a more friendly, inviting pedestrian corridor through there, along with the station at Lyndale, or towards Lyndale on 21st. And then what you're seeing on this, in the yellow, that's a station platform. That'll be right here, cutting diagonally from 21st over here, and then marrying back up with West Broadway at the intersection here.
How was that helping businesses on Broadway?
As far as...
Two questions on the floor?
A couple questions.
Don't leave us with nowhere to park or nothing for our customers, nothing.
Okay, so one of the reasons we're looking at 21st is, at least until this area, the West Broadway would be reconstructed along with the project. So utilities upgraded there. This is a chance to upgrade maybe some of the services, your water and sewer that are older, and then through this area there's still the opportunity to maintain parking from this section through. On this section, you're correct. Parking would go away from here all the way up to West Broadway, but that is something that we'll be working with property owners and with the city of what do we do to address that parking. Where on-street parking will go away. Are there opportunities that we could work with individual business owners? We did this on Central Corridor, where we helped some of the folks along there, maybe upgrade their parking that they had in the back. And so there's a lot of programs that we'll be looking at there to help out as we can.
There's no parking in the back, so what parking are we talking about in the back?
Well, every property is going to be its own, its own issues, its own thing that we need to address. So and we'll deal with each one of the property owners along there.
And when do you plan on doing that?
We are starting now.
I'm a property owner down there, and I'm losing parking. I've already lost parking when you took the parking away from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock. And we cannot park in the alley because it's only 4 spots. Spots for me. And I don't answer. So I'm wondering, you guys are taking away the parking, but you're paying taxes, and you're not providing us with nothing. And you're telling after the fact, after you do this, that's when you're going to talk to us about parking.
No. We are very early. The designs you see here are planning effort level. These are not engineering level effort. There's a lot that goes into it. Now is the time where our outreach staff, my staff, will be meeting with all the property owners, discussing with you what your needs are, what things that we can do, what's in our toolbox to help out to address the parking impacts. We understand that's a thing. We understand that that's valuable, necessary for your businesses, for your properties, and we need to work with you and through it. So and that is starting. We'll work through it here now that we have this recommended alignment that we're focusing.
Like we're promoting that.
Yeah.
Like we're promoting the blue line. I don't think everybody here wants the blue line.
I understand. So.
About the platform area. So where we are, that's going to be elevated, correct?
The platform is only about 14 inches high to get to the level of the train. So it's really an at-grade access. So it's a walk-up station. We try to have the stations at grade so folks of all abilities can get there easily, not having to have that infrastructure of elevators and stairs and everything. So these are at grade. So
Okay,
the most
so
part.
give me a visual. I'm looking at this, and the blue area is at street level, correct?
Yes.
And then the highlighted yellow will be
Yes.
about where on you?
Right about here.
Okay.
So-
In the middle of the street.
No, it'll be in the middle of the tracks.
In the middle of the track.
Yeah. So,
And the track will run where? If I'm looking at this street, where is that going to be?
the track will be on either side of a
Either
station.
side.
When we're back into the street, the tracks will be together. 2 tracks each side going down the center.
And the platform will be in the middle of those tracks.
In this location, yes, the platform is
In
it's
the
a
middle
single
of the tracks,
platform.
in the middle of the street, like on University in St. Paul.
This will not be in this one here will not be in the street. This will be outside of the street. We come back in the street running here at this intersection.
Okay, I'm just getting the visual because we have children that go
Yes.
to the Y. We have children all around here, and anything elevated creating a barrier is a concern.
Yeah. So no barriers, and this is something as we get into design. I mean, it's important that we're building light rail for customers, for folks to be able to safely access it. So along the whole corridor as we're working at, we're looking at pedestrian, bike safety, crossing safety for kids, for everybody, not just kids.
Yeah.
But making sure that that's as safe as we can be, and make sure that we can get people safely to and from the stations to where you're going or coming from. So
Okay.
yeah.
You're looking at light rail, and we're looking at life rail. Okay.
So maybe we should keep going because we could get stalled out here for a while, but we'll keep going down. Another thing to look at here is the where we show in this lighter blue color. Those are we'll have property impacts where we can work with the property owner, whether it's temporary or permanent, to go through our right-of-way acquisition process. We'll start having those conversations now, but actual acquisition offers and stuff can't come until we about a year from now, when we have what's called a record of decision from the feds to say, yes, this is a project that you have, and now you can go ahead. But we'll start working with property owners now to discuss what those impacts are. You'll see on here next to the station where there's some buildings that are shown in blue. That's where a building would be impacted to a point where we probably have to take that building away, and we'd work with that property owner on, if we could retain their property with them, help them, purchase the building from them, pay for the demo, and if they would like to stay on that property, what can we do to maintain their ownership of that property? So those are things that we're looking at here.
On the other side, are there investors in place in order to purchase that property? Should that not be something that a business owner want to do? Let's say the business owner sees it as an opportunity to move out. Would that gentrify the community, or would that invest in the community?
I think I got a lot of discussion here happening, but I think the question is, as we get into right away, we really want to retain folks that are owning properties, retain that wealth if we can. So work with that. But many people, when I come up and say, "Hey, your property's impacted," the first question is, "Okay, when do I get my check?" And so, if that property owner, if we have that impact to their property,
Not back there. Light rail won't appear.
if we have that impact to the property, yes, there's that opportunity to if somebody wants to.
All right. I hate to interrupt real quick, but I just want to make sure that we use this time. I know that we have a lot of feelings. There's a lot of emotions going on right now. But I really want us to use this time to collect as much information as possible. So let's try as much as we can to listen to what the information is, so that we could take that information back home with us, digest it, sleep on it, and be able to write our letters and give our feedback. But let's use this time to collect that information. We only have till 2 o'clock, so let's try as hard as we can. I know I live on Broadway and Penn myself, but we gotta, as much as we can, try to listen and get the information and keep moving forward and moving down Broadway. With the YMCA, the youth center for North Minneapolis, and then also the brand new apartment buildings that were just put up here. I know that a lot of people have mentioned how is this going to work here? So if you have any.
Yeah, thank you, Chriselle. So, one of the important things here is how do we keep the flow and the connection to the community? How do we work with the existing property owners? And, one thing that's important here is, at the YMCA here, a lot of kids are going here. You have North Commons Park over here. We'll be working with the city on, how can we maybe get some with the station over here, how can we get those pedestrian connections and that safety connections for, the parks, the school, the YMCA here. So these buildings are not impacted by the construction of this, or we don't have to demolish these buildings. They can stay in service and in business. We've spoke directly with the property owners here of Beam and construction, and talked to their concerns about parking and everything. And actually, as one of their comments was, when folks are moving in and out, we need X amount of space to bring in a moving truck, and it's probably in this area where the ramps are. So can you accommodate that? So in our design engineering, we'll look through at how can we have that space to bring a moving truck in, and how they would get to the apartments and to the buildings, and then even the circulation and access for vehicles and stuff in and out of these. So we're working with the property owners and businesses on this to make sure that we maintain or keep the services and the functions that they need.
Will these current sidewalks be impacted? Will you have
Yes.
to widen the street? So these sidewalks right now will go away. The sidewalk is back going to be over here now.
Yes. So there's cases where
Now we're on the sidewalk. You're in the street right now.
Yeah.
Watch out for the train coming. Wow.
along the way, what we plan on, I'd say you can picture this along here. We're going to be constructing building face to building face. So, but on building face, I mean, the construction zone is going to be up to buildings on either side of this. It's obviously very tight. And so, when we build this back, there'll be the train in the center, the lanes of traffic out here, and then our walkways on the outside.
So the trees are going to be gone.
So there could be trees that are impacted by the project, and likely are, but
Yeah.
part of the project is also to replace that. We can't just come out and remove trees and say too bad. There's always a replacement process. There's the replacement factors, and we'll work with the city. I mean, as you put it in perspective, it's usually at least a 1-to-1 replacement for a tree. But we're going to want to do better. We're going to want to make sure that we understand the urban heat islands around here, and what can we do with transit to bring that better to help out. So how do we get green space within the project? And it may not be linear sections of trees for a block, but maybe pockets of areas where we can plant things and make some nice spaces for the community.
It sounds like the streets of gold are going to be flowing. How much of that gold is going to end up in the pockets of Northside residents in terms of employment opportunities through this impact?
Okay, that's a good question. So that's one thing is we are working on. This is for the community. Career development, community development is part of this. We know a huge project like this is going to take a lot of folks to build it. And this is where we want to make sure that the community is coming along with us. So career development is part of that. How can we encourage folks to be, get them trained up and be ready to help us?
What does that mean, trained up? Trained up in what?
Trained to be a trade, electrician, construction, pipe fitter, rail person, equipment operator. That's just for construction. But we also need folks to operate and maintain this alignment. So we need operators. I need engineers. So I'm out here. We're working with Juxtaposition Arts and their apprentices, and they're helping us build models. So folks can better visualize it. We're talking with them to help build up those folks that are in architecture and engineering and stuff, because we do need those people, and we want to make sure that they're coming from this community, because we want the wealth. We want the people that are living here and going to experience it and benefit from it be the ones that are benefiting from it in the construction side too, and not.
Is that going to be a requirement of the contractors who bid on doing the work?
We have a lot of different requirements, yes, for our contractors, but I can see that as something that we're going to be looking at for on them too, the career development and training, you know, whether it's working with Summit OIC or whatever other training areas for the contractors where they're going to pull their pool from. I mean, that's a huge issue in the industry, just bringing in that skilled workers, and we need to promote that, and we need to work on that, and that is something that we focus on.
Is there a way to transplant these trees? Is there a way to like get them to go somewhere else? I mean, they took about 15 years to grow this size.
Good question.
Is there a way to get them to be transplanted to another park, maybe along Folsom Memorial Highway? I mean, somewhere.
That's the question was, is there a way to maybe transplant some of the trees? And you know, in this area, I know Minneapolis Public or Minneapolis Parks and Recs usually maintains the trees, and we'll work with them. I mean, if there are trees that they see are healthy and would be good candidates for transplant, yeah, that's something we want to do.
So, a question about pricing. I don't know if that's a part of this conversation, but I know that in Northeast there's like a downtown zone rate, which they get a cheaper rate on the transit because they're in a specific area. Will Northside have a similar thing? This is a poorer community. I think we should get a cheaper rate if we're going to have a train running through our neighborhood, you know? Have you ever heard of that? Like the downtown zone, they get to pay like 50 cents to get on the
Yes, I
bus
do.
versus like the $2, $2.50 everybody else has to pay.
That's a good question.
So I have a question. So the Bean building, this building is brand new. So it's steps that's coming down, and it's kids and seniors that live in these buildings. So what's going to happen to these steps? Because the steps are coming right down where the platform or where the train tracks can potentially be. So how is that going to work with all of these stairs for this brand new apartment building that's coming straight down to fit these two tracks? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What's going to happen with these stairs? Because that's going to come right, because the trains for both sides is going to come right up to their door. So what's going to happen with those steps?
Okay. So first, the train will be in the middle of the roadway. So the roadway will be
The
about
train
where
is going to be in the middle.
the train will run in the center of the roadway. So train tracks where that median is where you would have the tracks.
What about during the construction?
Okay, during construction, that's so I'll finish this one. Right now, I think our plans look like we shouldn't have to affect any of those stairs, but we need to keep access in and out of these buildings. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
you do.
that's
That's my
fire and
point.
everything, and so yeah, and your point is, yes, we need to maintain it. I can't just take that away, but we need to keep access in and out of these places. So construction is the next issue. So construction, I'm not going to lie to anybody. Construction is dirty, nasty. It's a pain. You know, there's access that we need to work through. We'll work with all the property owners. We did this on University Avenue and Central Quarter, along all the Central Quarter, to let them know, okay, this is the work we're doing. But also, we put a lot on our contractors that say you need to maintain access to properties at all times. And we also gave a lot of limitations, like if to a contractor, and this is something we'll be looking at, is if you're taking away a sidewalk and that in front of a building, that starts a clock where very quickly you're going to have the new sidewalk put back into place, and that keeps the contractor going, so it limits, you know, those impacts to property owners, to businesses. But we need to always keep that access in, and we did on Central Quarter pretty well.
So you're saying the two trains are going to go in the middle, but wouldn't that mean that the platform is going to be here? So how is that? So if the two trains are in the middle, then where the platform's going to be?
Okay. So I think there's the train when we're just riding blue, it's just tracks there. The train platforms are always going to be in the yellow. The platforms here, and whenever we can, I'll give you another point. This one is a center platform, so if you're going to go get a train, you go, whether you're going northbound or southbound, you're going to one platform. So we always tried to do the center platform just for so for ease of use, so there's not a confusion that I'm going to this train, oops, I'm on the wrong platform, how do I get to the other one? We want, if you're on the same platform, you should be able to get all the trains. So
what's
There's no station right here.
okay? So since there's no station, what's going to block from the train to these buildings?
So it'll be the train, and then a lane of traffic, and then a sidewalk.
And
then
all
the
that's gonna
buildings.
fit on this street.
Yes.
That's what these drawings show you, that it does
Yeah, they're
fit.
gonna pull the sidewalk.
And y'all really believe all that's gonna fit on this street?
I guarantee you.
Yeah, they're gonna make the
This gonna be the
sidewalk.
sidewalk right here, man.
This is our sidewalk now.
This is one of the tightest areas, to be honest.
I know that because it's a curve.
Yes.
And then it's a curve that's tighter when you go down there. I'm the one that's been saying that this whole time. So I'm sitting here trying to figure it out, looking at the distance of two trains, a one-way traffic on this side, one-way traffic on that side, on this street right here. That's going, and y'all telling us that's gonna work.
Well,
Yes.
think about the inside lane
about
and
one
the
lane
width of
next
the grass median. in both
Yeah, but it's
directions.
supposed to be one on each side. It's supposed to be
And
a
then the
lane.
train's gonna be back to each other. It's gonna be one back. 3 cars. That's how it works. And then taking the space back.
We're gonna have to buy skinny cars.
Them trees gonna come down, all that stuff. Right.
I'm picturing it in my.
I'm pretty prescriptive about what
So if you guys see on the map here, between Newton and Morgan, that little white thing in the middle of the tracks right there that you see, that right there is supposed to be a crosswalk. So a way to get across the tracks. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah. We call those. So at regular crossings of the tracks, you know, when we have an intersection, we need to signalize it. There'll be crosswalks. And the train area where there's left turns, a lot of times that left turn shadow the other side of the street from intersection from a left turn, we use as a refuge. So, you know, not that this is going to be a huge section of street to cross, but, you know, folks get halfway across, and that refuge we usually try to provide a push button so they can recall the walk signal and get the rest of the way across. But in between those signalized intersections, we need to maintain safe crossing through there. So, as Crystal brought up, right here we have, again, it's this U-shaped white thing through the tracks here. Those are mid-block crossings, so we provide that opportunity for folks to have a safe crossing over the tracks. We don't want people just crossing everywhere. We want to make sure, and so we design these. The reason it's that C shape or U shape as you look at it is because we try to get it so folks are walking in there and it kind of at least shifts them towards the prominent direction the train is coming. So they're looking and not having their head down with headphones on and looking at the phone. Try to get them to look at the train to provide that safe crossing area. We box it out so they have to make some movements to do that. And so, you know, we'll evaluate. We're showing them on these plans here, but that's one of the things as we get into design to make sure that we're showing adequate mid-block crossings, those pedestrian access. And then another thing is we have the guideway through here. If anybody's familiar with like University Avenue or a lot of our alignment, we'll have chains and bollards that are this high. I mean, you don't have to be much of a hurdler to get over them, but they're really there to say, you're not supposed to cross here. We want to try to keep people off the tracks. So.
How many crosswalks are there going to be? Because one thing about St. Paul for me is that I have to walk like 3 blocks to get over to the other side. How is that accessible to people who maybe aren't as able-bodied as me?
Yeah. Again, that's something as we get into design, we're gonna, you know, look at. You know, we want to put them in as there are a lot of infrastructure, but we need to get them in there where we think we need safe crossings in this area. So we'll be evaluating that to make sure that we got them in the right place. Usually it's there usually we need to make sure we have a crossing about at least every 2 blocks. So, you know, so at that point you're not having to walk more than a block to cross over the tracks.
Yeah, city blocks though, like main city block here is way longer than like the side.
Exactly.
Like, off to the side. So it's like more like 4 blocks.
You know, I think Kim even mentioned, you know, back at the YMCA, you can see here there's, you know, we'll look at, you know, making sure that we're really providing that safe crossing in this area. You know, right now we show a peg crossing at Knox area. You know, it's not the C that you shape that there, but how are we going to handle it? Do we have the flashing lights, you know, where the pedestrian can come up, push a button, and the lights flash to indicate to the traffic that somebody's coming across there? Well, we'll look at what the best opportunity is, but that's great. You know, I mean, we welcome community.
Elevating it so that traffic can just continue to flow and people can just walk over, no stopping.
What we found that if folks usually have to go out of their way to go somewhere, they're not going to. So, you know,
Maybe elevate the road and then people walk under it.
so it brings a lot of different issues, but good idea. So more to come on that. I know the city is here. The city will be working with them too to make sure that we're paying attention to that. So should probably keep going. Let's our next stop up by the Capri. So.
The city says an amazing representative.
How you doing, sir? Good day to be out here on West Broadway, trying to figure out the future of our community.
It'll be one lane in each direction, so, but it'll be a 15-foot wide lane.
Okay.
So
we can go around.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I'll bring that up.
By the way, do you have cards when you're done?
I do. Seriously, I am happy. Okay, so a couple things here. Yeah, the question is, I'm happy to meet with anybody. Always excited to have a discussion.
Who are you with, sir?
I am with Metro Transit. I'm the Director of Engineering and Design for the Blue Line Project. And so, but the best way to get a hold of me is reach out to Kaja, or outreach. Kaja knows my schedule as well as I do, and can start booking meetings and get information and material together so we can have a productive conversation. And we'll do it faster than I ever get to my email to look at or answer a phone call. So, number one. Number two, the question came up, is okay, you guys are running one lane of traffic here. You know, how does that work with emergency vehicles and everything? When you look at the one lane of traffic that we'll have there, you know, we need to have a minimum width. We're working with the county, it's a county roadway, but also emergency responders, the police and the fire. I mean, we work with them through our design to make sure that things work for them. So that one lane will be 15 feet wide. So the question is, first responders come through, a fire truck needs to get through, ambulance needs to go through, what happens? So, you know, we have this operating in other locations along our corridor. You know, there's enough room there for a car to pull over and those first responders to get by. And truthfully, you know, if they need to cheat up on our guideway on the tracks to get around cars or vehicles, they can do that too. We don't want cars to do that, but we'll want to make sure that our emergency first responders that have. So this is something that we work all through our design with the first responders in all of our communities to make sure that they understand where our design is, understand how they operate, what they need for it to be safe. But it's not going to be, for instance, one 10-foot lane out here. It'll be a 15-foot lane, so a wider lane out here. So hopefully that helps.
Sounds like it's probably been asked a few times, but since I wasn't here, I'm gonna ask again. How do you plan to mitigate the crime and the issues that have been going on with public transit all around the city? I can't count how many times I've seen people straight up doing drugs on the bus with babies around, fighting. I saw somebody get stabbed 2 years ago. I mean, the light rail itself is really unregulated because there's not a bus driver. So there's nobody to even kind of scare people away from doing this. How do you guys plan to mitigate that? I see the cops don't really even be on the buses or the trains right now as it is. They ain't defunded, so.
It's a great question. How are we dealing with crime? So, you know, and how are we dealing with safety? So when we're in design, I'm looking at how do we design the safety. You know, there's, I forget what it's, the whole acronym is, but it's SEPTED to make sure that we're designing safe spaces and areas. So as we look at, you know, our facilities, we want to make sure that we're not having hiding spaces or shadowy areas, that things are well lit, so they're safer, and there's you know, it's brighter, you know, so there's not the opportunities to hide and stuff like that. But more fundamentally, Metro Transit has started months ago here a safety and security initiative, and it was multi-pronged. So we're getting more of our officers out on all our transit, our buses and trains. We're upping our cleaners on all of our systems. So I was out yesterday at a great day for transit, where I was just working as an ambassador, so it's good for me to get out there to see how customers use the station, what they look like, you know, what things we can do better and design, but also just meet and greet our customers and offer and get feedback. Things are substantially better now than they have been. We've upped our cleaning, so you go on a platform now where maybe it didn't feel so comfortable during and right after COVID. They are very clean now. We have presence on our stations, especially some of our more stations where we have more problems. We've actually brought on private security to be at those stations all the time. That is helping it. And I've had a lot of people yesterday come and say, you know, things are substantially better here in the last few months because you have that focus at, for instance, Lake Street Station. And where I got off before at Lake Street Station, I didn't feel comfortable. I'm feeling a lot better about the station. So.
I live over there, and I have not felt comfortable over there in the last 2 years. I don't think it looks any better. I've seen multiple people overdosing. The little transit station right there on Chicago and Lake, they're just living in there for a while. For like a long time, then they just closed it up and put up, how are we actually fixing these issues?
The other part of the initiative is Metro Transit's partnering with resources, counselors, and folks to get out there on our transit to help folks that are maybe without shelter, identify them and help them get to the resources they need to, because but you shouldn't be living on the buses or the trains. It's for folks to get to and from where they're going. So things like that, and then for drugs and stuff, there's counselors out there to maybe help with, we're partnering with those folks to get resources for folks.
I just think it's interesting you said it feels safer, because literally I've been living over there for like 2 years, and it's the one bus stop I avoid in South Minneapolis. Like I will not, if I don't have to, I don't get on the Chicago and Lake Transit area. I won't get on where Franklin and Chicago are either. There's a few stops where it's really, really bad, and it's been a continuously bad. This is like a historically long thing going on right now. So, yeah, I'm just curious as to what long-term fixes we're going to see for this, because the train definitely gives people an opportunity, regardless of if people are there, to do whatever they want if they feel like it, and when they're high out of their minds, These are people who they're sick, and they're really not in their right sense, right? So cops don't even really scare them away, They do what they want when they want. If they're high enough, yeah.
So the effort out there right now is it's to continue with these programs and identify the areas where we need to touch base more. I mean, and so we'll want to keep up with that, because I do see it. I ride the train intentionally all the time, and the buses all the time, just so I see where things are coming. And I notice a lot of the areas where things have been done to make things better, and they're substantially better, in my opinion. Not every place, but I mean.
I guess you don't have to ride it.
Just to add on to that, I've noticed that some of the trains have a rather powerful smell of stale smoke, or smell something, smell tobacco smoke, or stale something else. So you're not supposed to be smoking on the train, but it's not just, it doesn't just, it makes it unpleasant to ride, and it's also like not stuff you should be breathing in anyway.
Understand.
And then Adway right here.
Oh, talking about so, and I know I'm probably beating this horse over again, but we see the conceptual, like right away, conceptual temporary construction easement. So this conversation that's been going on with the community now for a year and a half, 2 years or whatever, how come we don't see any conceptual parking situations? I know you said this is just in early planning stages, but we haven't seen anything that helps us understand where the parking could be.
Yes. Yeah, and I'll say that is something, I want to make sure that, what's the phrase? Make sure you have it in the kitchen before you put it on the menu. And so we're trying to make sure that we're identifying what those solutions are before we roll them out. We are working on that. Give
me what could conceptually happen.
Well, I could say conceptually, as development goes in, that development should maybe be addressing that. Okay, is this an opportunity to provide some of that parking that is lost? You know, for instance, will we be evaluating some of the properties that we may have to acquire along the alignment? Does it make sense to have some kind of parking there or not? I mean, those are all things that we'll be looking at as we.
You're right on Broadway, right?
Yeah.
So then you won't have, you can't pull up in front of you.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
But I see what he's saying because I've been to the North Regional.
Yep.
I've been to all these different meetings, talked about this. People have come to my business and talked to me. And the main thing I keep saying is parking. You guys redrew these plans and you still didn't address parking. So it makes it sound like to me that you don't care about North Minneapolis. All you care about is the Target Center and getting from out there. Because you have not included nothing about parking, and you've been doing this for over a year and a half. We should be seeing this on this paper right now. Not, you keep saying there's only been a couple of years. Y'all been doing this for a while, and it's like you brush us off. And we keep saying the same thing over and over again. So when are we going to see it on the plans? That's what we need to see. Because I feel like this, I pay my taxes every year. Y'all don't, if I didn't pay it, then you guys will be coming after me. So if I'm paying these taxes, I want some effort done for my business. So I'm not being impacted so much because you want a train to go through here, but you don't give a dang about me staying in business.
Because the bottom line is that North Minneapolis is supposed to, the claim is for this to uplift North Minneapolis, and we're being used as a thoroughfare, as a go-through to get some from one end of town to the other end of town. It has nothing to do with us and all the potential damage and trauma that it's causing our community. So that needs to be y'all need to talk about that, because this picture is not comforting at all, especially seeing what you're saying. This is not a comfort to the people that work here, own businesses here, and live here. Because my concern about it is that what you're saying that's going to work on paper, in reality, it's not going to work when you actually start doing it. So how is it going to affect people that live on Hillside first, because it's closest to her block first, and all these businesses that's up and down, if they got a train that's going to be sitting right in the front like Tito's place, he already ain't got nowhere to park, but people, the train is right up to his door because his business, the street is sticking, it's out, his business is out on the side, that way. And so how's a train going to be right in front of his business going to affect all of these businesses? You got to think about that. And think about how this is affecting people, because this is people's lives.
And the other, Julia, raise your hand. Julia is taking notes. Everything that you guys are saying, bringing up, commenting, questions that you're being asked is being dictated by Julia right here. Farrington is taking footage of this. So all of the questions, concerns, comments, everything that you're saying, and the answers from this team is actually all being, we're taking this and we're definitely going to be making sure that everybody is going to get this information. So just know that we at WBC is hosting this event. So all of the comments, questions, everything is going to go forward to everybody. We're going to make sure that everybody sees these comments, sees these questions, and sees the promises that are being made and the follow-ups that is being promised that we're going to hear back from them, okay?
Okay, so then you got Broadway Legal, or Broadway Liquor.
I hear you.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Right there, that's you. Well, that's me. Right there, I'm 21, 28.
Yeah.
This year.
So that green goes right up to the
So
face
therefore,
of the
I don't even have, I walk out into a train.
Understand. So
I don't.
I definitely hear you. I hear you. This is a big discussion that we're having. It's very important for you guys.
I mean, it just feels like another Rondo, another 94, another 35 situation about to happen again.
That's not fair, though. I mean, because I'm not carrying away.
But you're splitting. I mean, it does split. There is like this barrier. I mean, rail lines are like
here now, and there'll be a train in the street that's there.
But you can't even enter your building. How are you going to conduct business if your customers, if they get off that train, can't go into the front door?
Yeah.
People don't do business in the back door. Who wants to do business in the back door? They want their people to be greeted in the front door.
Exactly.
So you're hurting us. You're not helping us. You're hurting our business financially.
Okay.
Yeah, the issue is with the parking. So next year, I believe the city is gonna rebuild this building here.
I think Neon's rebuilding, yes.
Yeah, they're gonna rebuild it. Okay. So the issue here with the parking, and the second thing is gonna bring more crack people around here. We already have crack people, drugs people. We already have enough here, you know. By doing the train, you're gonna bring more of them.
So, we're up here at Penn Avenue now, and so, you know, again, we hear it. I hear the discussion, the concerns about parking. I will guarantee that is something that's high on our list of how we handle that, and you know what's in our toolbox to make it better. We completely understand from the day one when we said parking, on-street parking would go away with this alignment, that there's something that we need to do to address that.
Yeah, but it's got to be done before. I mean, it's got to be shown before you start, like, this piece gets cemented, because we have no leverage after you get, you know, after the plans are cemented, you know. We need to know what's going on prior to it. And if we don't, because you have all the leverage once you know, the dirt starts getting dug and all that sort of stuff. Okay.
So parking is one. The other.
So what are they going to do? Are they going to supplement businesses while you guys do construction? So when they can't get customers in back and forth, how are they going to stay alive? Are you guys going to do things to help fund them or give them breaks on their rent, or, you know, how are you going to help?
So right now the project is working with, and this is led by Hennepin County, but it's working kind of seamlessly with the project, what we're calling that anti-displacement working group, that effort to identify, okay, what are the impacts to the community, and what can help to build the prosperity in the community, not displace people. So continue the wealth that's being built here to and maintain that. So that is being addressed at a level outside just constructing a light rail. It's being handled at at the county level, but it's working along with us. So part of that group, as we look at how can we minimize impacts, that's the initial part. Where I can do it, have effect in design. Similar to on Central Corridor, we worked with the Central Corridor Funders Collaborative. There was funding and grants for business owners out there as part of that project. It was outside the train project, but went along with them to help folks out with small business loans, forgivable grants, things like that. Our outreach group during construction works with the property owners to let them know, okay, here's where what's happening in our construction, here's where the phasing is going to be, what can we do to help you with marketing, to make things visible, to get the information out to your clients. So there's things like that as we get into construction that will definitely be happening. So a little bit outside engineering. So one of the buildings here one of the things here, and we've got one business here, but with this intersection, and we hear here the 5 Points building, we looked at every configuration that we could conceivably think of. I think the city is here, can shake their head yes. We looked at dozens of different designs to preserve this building. And
so it's this building and the
yes.
KMOJ building. So it's these two buildings. Both buildings are gone. Yep, this building and that building.
The business I own, the property I own, the land.
Yes.
So the city can take it.
Oh, this your building?
Yes, that's my building.
Yeah,
so how would the city gonna take my building? I pay for it.
Actually,
what?
Okay, guys.
No one he say that. No one he send me a letter. How the building gonna come to build to the goddamn train and they're gonna take my building away? I pay the bill. I pay taxes every year for the business and the building. I'm not just rent. How would the city gonna destroy my building? I got 10 workers here. Everyone here make $50,000 a year. You gonna pay them?
So, again, as we go through property acquisition, as we identify properties, as we get about a year from now, we will be working with property owners. We'll start now with property owners to discuss what those impacts are with you. We don't just take the property. We need to make a fair market value offer on your property. You have the opportunity to counter offer on that. We go through negotiations. You know, people bring out eminent domain. Yes, we do use eminent domain because it's a linear project. I mean, but our whole, you know, we don't start the eminent domain right away. We make those offers, and even if we do start eminent domain, we continue to negotiate and work with property owners.
So what happens if I refuse your offer? Because my building make me profit every year. I give profit to my worker. If I say to the city, no, I'm not going to sell my building, what you going to do?
Well, that's where we'll keep working with you. The other thing that'll happen is, you know, with our right-of-way, with our relocation, there's relocation money and assistance that will go along with that offer to, you know, look for a new space, you know, help try to find that. There's relocation assistance for that, and there's even money for that physical relocation too.
So that's a Lumbi Cafe. I've been here for 15 years. You told me I should go another place.
So.
Can I actually grab you? Because it sounds like our coordinators haven't reached out to you yet.
Yes.
Yeah,
sure.
A fuller conversation and a fuller meeting.
Sure.
Yeah.
We were told that all the businesses had been communicated to a year ago when we were starting this process. We were told that all the businesses on West Broadway had been communicated with and were aware of the project, and now here we have a business owner who knows nothing about this process.
Okay.
That's scary.
I know that we've done an outstanding effort to get out there and communicate with everybody. Tito knows that I've been talking with him for 2 years now, and part of his frustration is he's told me what he needs for 2 years, and we're listening. I mean, we have been reaching out, we've been knocking on doors, we've been sending letters, so I'm very confident that we've touched base with everybody. But
they've been here for a minute too.
I've been believing you. When you say he contacted all the business, so I've been believing you guys. Every time you say that, I'm like, okay, they've contacted everybody.
We gotta keep moving.
But
We gotta keep moving.
some people have been missed, unfortunately.
I can't tell you. Some people.
Okay. Yeah. No, I was gonna say because I've been believing you.
Property owners that I said nothing about tell me.
Yeah. I mean, I believe you because when every time you say that, I'm believing that you guys have contacted everybody. But that's just scary.
All I can say is I've been honest with you. I tell the truth.
Right.
And it's part of my job's integrity. So I'm not.
You've been transparent. You've been, but like I said, unfortunately, here's somebody we know.
I mean, that could be all up and down Broadway. Places like that.
So I know there's a few people come along here, but you know, again, this 5 Points building is one of those properties that we're going to need to purchase with the project. And so, what happens to this property after we've widened out? You know, right now we look at every way we can, but with the weird skew of this intersection, providing left turn lanes so we can make that safety. We have a station that's going to be right here on the north side of Plymouth. You know, all those things add up, and so it makes a situation that we can't trim enough and save the property. So obviously this becomes a parcel. The building is gone. What needs to happen here? You know, and these are areas where we could use the community input. You know, what the community's vision is. You know, I've heard people say parking. You know, district parking or whatever. You know, so these are things that we would, you know, be interested in hearing from the community.
Like a parking ramp, maybe something heated for the winter.
So you're interested in feedback from the community about what to do?
Yeah. You know, because obviously this with the light rail station here, with the C line coming through here, this is a transit hub. This is one of those connection points where, you know, we've got two high frequency, high capacity transit systems, you know, part of our backbone and ribs to our system. This is going to be one of those connecting points. So, you know, what happens here and how does this make the community better? So
this is gone.
They're about to buy that dude's building.
So, Chris,
yeah, they're about to just tear it all up.
Crystal, do we want to turn around here or do we want to keep going?
I think we're gonna cross. The plan was to cross and then cross and then cross because isn't there a station that's supposed to go in across here?
Yeah, the station will be right over here. So
all right, so let's cross and cross and cross back.
Yeah, so that would be where that van is.
So all
that means people will.
Oh, that's exactly right.
We're gonna stop here. We're gonna hold up traffic way back there.
this area. So again, a center platform at grade. You'd access it from the intersection up here, and then just over here on this side by Queen would be the other entrance. So we always make sure we have two access our ingress egress off of our station. So signalized intersection up here, crossing at the intersection, and then crosswalks over here. We'll look at how we signal for safety for pedestrians there. What that means, but there would be another access here in this location. So I mean, this is probably one of the areas where we do have the most impact along the alignment. And we talked about the 5 Points building. This building right here, the El Means Fish House, and the one next to it are shown for demolition or impact. And this church and the next two houses down here, because of the widening of the station and the roadway. So
The church has to go.
This building would. Yeah.
What about the clinic?
No.
No.
Everything on that side stays.
Okay, but it's this where.
Yeah.
This is where.
These are really the biggest impacts, and I can say this is probably the bigger impact along the corridor for properties.
Has there been conversation about the station being at 26?
We did look at that. So one of the things I pointed out there and mentioned is we looked at, trying to save the 5 Points, and if we push the station farther down towards 26, would that help out with minimizing those right-of-way impacts? And it didn't. It's really the weird skew through these intersections, getting the train through, getting the left turn lanes here, having the signalized intersection. We still had pretty much the same impacts. So, and actually we probably impacted more buildings down at 26 than if we just bring it this way. So.
Have you guys thought about maybe like a relocation program for these businesses to actually, if you're going to demo them, you find them a new place and help build them up and make sure that they're set up and established if they have to be demolished?
So I think that's a great question, and that should be part of our anti-displacement work to have those discussions. I can say in our right-of-way process, there is relocation assistance. So, we help folks to get those resources. If they need to relocate, give relocation. That is one of the things. Again, I can't emphasize enough. We're not just tearing through here and tearing out people. If we're impacting folks, we want to figure out, how we can do better. So we want to keep the wealth here. I mean, this train isn't for somebody else. It's for the folks that are here. That's why we're putting stations here. If it was for somebody else, we wouldn't put a station here. I could get going faster and move through quicker. That's not the case. And to put in perspective, hardly anybody ever rides the light rail from end to end. You're usually going to get on from your closest stop for where you're going to, maybe your work, which is a mile away, or you're going to the grocery store a stop or two away. I mean, that's what most of the rides are. They're probably not more than 3 stations. So the train, even though it's regional and it's that connection that you can get all the way through, I mean, I'll put it out bluntly. If you're up in Brooklyn Park and you want to get downtown to work right away, the express bus is going to be faster for you.
Right.
But if you're in Brooklyn Park, or if you're in North Minneapolis and you're going to North Hennepin Community College, this is going to be where you want to ride. Right. So that's how you have to look at it. Our transit is part of a whole system. It's rail, it's buses, it's micro transit, it's everything, and it ties into the roadway networks too. So it's holistic. I'm building a train, yes, but it's part of a whole system, not just one thing.